Okay, January 22nd, 2026. The Unconventionalist. I'm thinking this evening about how certain people just, I think, enjoy being alone. One of my fascinations is the wizards, witches, the shamans, if you will. How in indigenous cultures, some of the shamans don't really live with the tribe. They're actually days it would take to even seek out their advice or their services. But you have to kind of think to yourself, why is it that someone would separate themselves? It's told, if history is correct, that people like Leonardo da Vinci, certain these people who have done big things, I think that they were annoyed, or I don't know if they were annoyed, I couldn't really say that, but from my personal experience I could see how your work becomes your life. You find something, right? Maybe you're an unconventionalist where the day-to-day 9 to 5 grind bores the heck out of you. I'm sure, the one of my jokes is, if you had a shaman nowadays, in the old days it would be like, wow, who stole the chicken from who, and you're trying to figure this out. And he's like, oh my God, or he or she, like, we got to talk about the who stole the chicken from these, children, basically. It's probably one good reason why they separated themselves. But nowadays, if you had a shaman, he would come and it'd be like, well, you know, my social media account and my cell phone, and, at least it would give them something new to hear. I guess what I'm saying is, we probably had this throughout history where we just had simpleton people stealing chickens from each other and doing dumb shit. So it could be one reason why individuals would choose to be alone. There was a movie, I think, called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Came out about 30, 40 years ago. And she comes in, the wife, and Dr. Frankenstein, the guy's working in his laboratory. And she's like, come on, stop your work. Come out and have some fun once in a while. And I remember seeing that clip. And he just wanted to get one last thing done before he went outside. And when he went outside to play with the family and his kids, he hung a key on a kite because there was a thunderstorm, to see if he can get the lightning to strike it. always, always trying something. So the key factor, I think, is that some people who have um, the inability to appreciate the simple things in life, such as the dialogue and the interactions of the common people, maybe need to be alone. And maybe this is something that each of us as individuals need to figure out. Maybe there's some sort of underlying depression, anxiety, confusion, because nothing seems to fit, and maybe it's never fit. Maybe it never will. Maybe some of those who came before us is a clear sign that you might be a shaman, a witch, a wizard, an inventor, whatever have you, a mad scientist. And as I go about my days, trying to sort things out, figure things out, I just notice the tension of when I'm not in my work and of my work. How a simple pop-up on my phone, or a phone call or a text or something, could just kind of throw everything off, because it's like you're on a trail, a mind map trail, and you're trying to figure things out, you're trying to sort it out, you're painting the picture, and then when you get disturbed, you you have a tendency to lose track of where you're at, and then you have to start from the beginning again, and that's why people get angry. So if you are a simple person and you can't figure out why, when you ask something simple and somebody's very hard at work at something, especially an unconventionalist, and they get a little snappy, that's probably why, because you just pulled the rug out. They got to start all the way from ground zero. I think it was interesting. It was Terrence McKenna or somebody, I cannot remember, going to the jungle, and they land in this plane, and they've got, different clothing and stuff. These indigenous people show up, and they're all fascinated by the plane, how shiny it is, the camera, the clothes, the haircut and everything, the tennis shoes. And once this person noticed the shaman was just interested in who the heck they were, why they were there. No interest whatsoever in shiny objects. I don't know where exactly I'm going with all this. I don't know your story. I don't know your future. I don't know my future. But I do know that it gives me a sense of peace to be alone and do my work. I mean, some people think that, I work from the moment I wake up till the moment I go to bed. Even when I go to bed, I don't watch TV. I'm learning something. But it could be quite possibly that there are others like myself that actually enjoy their work. That's why they do it so much. And I think that a design for an unconventionalist in this section, I know there's probably different prisms of unconventionalists, but those who have the same flavor that I do in life, I like to look back on the hypothesis that people make of these great structures that were built. The one in Turkey, God, I can't remember the name of it right now, like Machu Picchu, and these unearthed temples. God, I can't remember the names of any of these. There's some that are just carved. They're magnificent. They're carved out of one piece of stone, the entire temple. Anyways, there are magnificent things that have happened in these certain cultures, and the hypothesis is that they created abundance. They moved to a place, a tribe of people, a group of people, and that the menial tasks of life, such as growing food, all sanitation, all the hard labor was removed because there was such great abundance. This left a time period, like a renaissance, if you will, of when individuals were able to spend more of their energy on creativity rather than the day-to-day life things. And this is where it possibly popped up in these civilizations, where because there was that time to reflect on oneself, to explore oneself, great things were made. And I think that might be a ticket of where I'm aiming my life. Is there a way to structurize the menial tasks of life so you can focus on the things you like, the creativity to build things, to invent things, to think new thoughts? Just the capacity in our own minds with the day-to-day, with commercials, billboards, the 9-to-5 job, bills, the stress of just the sound of, I've just moved from the wilderness, from a very hike, not wilderness, but way out where we basically, I was feeding a bobcat, dead rats that I would trap. And I had snakes climb into our living room. It was rural. Now I live in the city, and the distractions are enormous. I could see the huge difference. So my thoughts are, and I think I've spoke about this here before, as I invented a system to grow food. You can check it out if you like. It's called the BC Gardening Guy. And it's all biodegradable and natural, and it's the best I can do to leave the less footprint on the earth as possible. But it also does another thing, which is one person can grow a lot of food. I don't know how I came up with this design, but these are the type of things that just blow my fucking mind, when it's like, why would we sit and talk about politics, religious differences, the stupidity of all these things, when we can all be whiteboarding and using such things as AI to come up with ideas. I came up with this gardening idea all by myself, but now that we have AI, I can't wait to challenge AI and utilize AI to see how far I can take all this. But I was able to grow, I think it was somewhere in the range of 850 plants with about 30 minutes to an hour max once a week attendance. It was Friday. I would show up for an hour, do some weeding, check some water lines, check my baskets, and that's a lot of food, guys. And I think on scale this could be done to where, of course, not meats and things like that. I have my ideas on protein, but yeah, could be done on scale where you never have to worry about vegetables again. Of course, you'd only be eating what's in season, but to me, that's not a bad thing. I think that's actually a spiritual, enlightening thing, a physical health thing. Nature does have a design. We just need to listen to it. And if we flowed with nature instead of went against it, I think we would see tremendous outcomes in both our health, sanity, and spirituality. But what if we were able to design something? On this rural area I told you I lived, invested in a whole entire solar system that I'll have for the next probably 20 years. So I never really worried about electricity. When there was blackouts, it didn't affect me. Nothing really affected me unless the sun didn't shine. But I didn't have to worry about power. I didn't have to, and guys, I lived rural. I had 2 stand-up freezers with about a quarter of a grass-fed beef and other stuff in there. I had a refrigerator, a little freezer on top, a TV, cell phone chargers, a treadmill, basically lights on all the time, and lived like normal. So I didn't have to worry about electric. There are certain ideas I have where I'm just trying to set up all the pins so I can knock them down. What if we didn't have to worry about fuel? What if we didn't have to worry about like growing our own food, producing our own electricity, our clothes, all the many little things, so we can get to a point where we can do great things. Probably not for most. But sitting here on this porch swing with my little girl, when she's out here under this canopy, hearing the light rain on the tin roof, spending most of our time outdoors instead of indoors with fresh air, the freedom. Why would you not chase that freedom? I think it's worth dying for. Because one thing's for certain, I know in this matrixy world that we live in these systems, I'm going to die anyways at some point from all the stress and the unhealthiness of it all. Might as well die fighting and trying to create a better life, a better system, a personal system, a universal system. My dream is, the saying, build it and they will come. And I think it's not a matter of if, it's when I am successful at that, at building this model. I think that it's something that can change the world. If people don't want to be a part of this system anymore, there is a way to do it with an equal marriage of technology and nature, I think, too. That's the problem. I don't want to give up all my technology. I like my cell phone. I like the internet. But it doesn't have to be that way. It could be an equal symbiotic relationship. In fact, the internet with AI and everything could really be a plus to help make things go along so much faster. But the idea I have is that many of the things that I've created, which I can't wait to talk about on this channel, please help me get to 50 subscribers so I can go live and share these details with you. But just think about what I said, that one person once a week can manage up to 850 plants, vegetables, fruits. Can you imagine having just a few people in line, a community of some sorts, what would be possible for the freedom of life? Money, energy, food, clothing, all of these things could literally be eradicated from the concerns of our minds. And then we'd be able to focus on what truly matters: happiness, growth, creativity, exploration. Fuck. The unconventionalists